Oh, hello there. Yes, well, it is, isn't it? It's Bank Holiday Monday. Yes, so called, of course, because you remember the day that Jesus went into the banks and criticised their shorts on the mortgage market. Probably. Anyway, yes. So yesterday, Easter Sunday, was of course full of all those kind of religious stuff. You know, the lead story is always somebody meeting the Pope. Might come back to that one. Yes, but my eye was taken by a friend of the channel, Connor Tomlinson, who is still got a bee in his bonnet about Douglas Murray. Thank God I haven't. Anyway, yeah, Douglas Murray is right. Yes, well, Douglas Murray would be right because both of them have English degrees, so naturally gay. Joe Swinson and Matthew Stadland's performative outrage on BBC Newsnight over Murray saying, quotes, "We need less Islam," is divorced from the facts. Ah, yes, dear boy, the facts. It is not a fringe, again, inverted commas, minority, but a clear majority of Muslims who hold extreme and evil beliefs. 3 in 4 Muslims in Britain think Hamas did nothing wrong on October the 7th. 52% want blasphemy laws to ban drawing their prophet Muhammad. Islamists are responsible for 94% of all deaths and 88% of injuries caused since terrorism since 1999. Yes, a bit of an odd date, that one. We'll come back to that one. And comprise 80% of counter-terrorism police and 75% of MI5's open caseload and 63. Too many ands. 63% of terrorists in custody. The English degree worked out, didn't it? Muslims are 6.5% of the population, but 18% of the prison population. If the BBC thinks a Netflix drama on a fictional white incel killer deserves wall-to-wall coverage, then why not the fact that Muslim communities produce so many jihadists? Yes, indeed, except, of course, just on that latter point, I can't see any other communities producing jihadists. It's a bit like you wouldn't expect, atheists to become Knights Templar, really, would you? Anyway, leaving that aside, I could sort of go through this various list. I could debunk various things. For example, the whole 3 in 4 Muslims is widely reported, but of course that comes from your, fairly nasty Henry Jackson thing, whereby Muslims were given a simple binary choice as to whether or not they supported Israel or Hamas, and oddly, a lot of them didn't support Israel, so not really. The whole blasphemy laws thing, indeed, is intriguing because, of course, Connor is a good Catholic boy, seen here encouraging arson in a church. He's a good Catholic. Again, we'll come back to that one. But yes, it is in the Bible, of course, as well, not to have craven images, which the Pope decides to ignore, doesn't he? You can't be bothered with that because we quite like our Sistine Chapel. We're not going to whitewash over that one, says your Popey, yeah. And the whole thing about deaths and terrorism and prison populations is, of course, an intriguing one because you can sort of make up these kind of facts as you go along, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Because the thing is that if we actually do think about people and their allegiances and the problems there are, I would suggest that we need to think back further to a very much more, traditional enemy. No, I'm not talking about the French. I am, in fact, talking about, of course, about the Catholics. Yes. You may recall that just yesterday, J.D. Vance was in the Vatican, which he'd been slagging off, but at the same time got to meet the Pope. Oh, yes. The guy with the nuclear codes meeting the Pope. It sounds sinister to me. I don't want a nuclear-armed Vatican state. That would be deadly, wouldn't it? But let's think about the track record of Catholics vis-a-vis terrorism, because I think that's what we need to do, because Connor, of course, has chosen 1999. Well, it's a very odd date. I mean, you might think 2000, mightn't you? Or, sort of something like that. You'd think it would be 2000, but it's 19. Well, the reason for that, of course, is because it neatly excludes all of those deaths caused by Catholics, yes, Catholics, in Northern Ireland. We can see them here. Oh, what a huge spike by, not quite jihadists, but certainly the Fenians, or who were very, very closely tied to the Catholic Church. And if we think about generically about the prison population in the UK, what we arrive at is the interesting statistic, of course, that the number of Christians in the prison population is about the same size as you would expect as in the wider population. But the number of atheists are actually underrepresented, which means that, people like me, for example, who's an atheist, are far more likely, less likely to be criminals than, Catholics, yeah? But going to the heart of the matter, when we think about the dangers of Catholicism, of course, if we look at Northern Ireland in terms of the numbers of people that there are in prison, we find a huge and rising spike in the Catholic people that have been put in prison. It's actually far outweighs their actual numbers in the population. Yes, and the majority of these crimes are things like violence, theft, arson, maybe in a church, and basically borderline at best terrorist ideas. Now, if Connor wants to suggest that the Catholics might be inherently dangerous because of the statistics that I've just given you, he's welcome to it. But of course he won't do that, because what he's doing is using his own particular smokescreen for what I can only conceive of as another papist plot. We have a long history of them in this country. Think gunpowder, think Titus Salt, a man who, was very much denigrated in British history as being, well, just a grifter who got paid to be a racist. But obviously, that's wrong, isn't it? He was a seer, a man who could see how incredibly dangerous these papists like Connor are. Yes, and let's not forget that the big issue, the huge issue that there was, which caused those 30 years of troubles, apart from the obvious criminality of your basic Catholic, of course, was the fact that they were outbreeding the good Protestant peace-loving peoples of Northern Ireland. It was a ticking time bomb, because they were having 20, 30, 40 kids, all paid for by the state, naturally, yeah? And just now they've reached that point whereby basically, well, there's too many of them, aren't there? Yes, dreadful. Now, if what I'm saying sounds like a load of old rubbish which is just designed to stir up hatred, that's no less rubbish than what Mr. Connor Tomlinson is doing, is it? And very much like his forebears like Titus Salt, he's more than happy to take money for it. And I think these people should be ridiculed on the same level. But I can easily use statistics to prove that Catholics, because they are a very large section of the violent offenders in Northern Ireland, are inherently dangerous, which means by definition that Connor Tomlinson is inherently dangerous. You can do this with almost anything you like, okay? But what's the point? Well, the point is, of course, to make you dislike a certain group of people for political ends. And I just find that really distasteful, especially printing something like that up on Easter Sunday and then going to church afterwards. I think there might be other passages in the Bible that might have something to say about that. Anyway, do have a glorious day off, and just follow in the paths of Jesus, and think about those banks and those mortgages, and try not to, well, basically cause a recession due to overlending. All right, see you in a bit.